Afternoon, welcome back. Today we're talking about a subject that gets a lot of airtime, and I mean a lot of airtime, and it's a subject that I think probably gets bantered around too much, talked about too much, and I think a lot of people use it as a way to motivate others, in my view, the wrong way, and that is failure. So let's talk about the word first. Failure, it's an interesting word. What defines failure? That's probably a bigger topic, but I think what I really dislike and what I hear a lot at is people who say to me, I love failure. You know, they come and they talk to me and they talk about how they're building a business or they build a business or whatever it is they've done, and they say things like, I love failure. I'm not into that. I'm not buying that. No one loves failure. Nobody loves failure. Sure, you can learn how to use failure, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but failure sucks. There's nothing good about failure. There's nothing good about trying to do something and not being able to do it. Whether it's trying to learn how to surf, whether it's trying to learn how to play tennis, whether it's starting a business, whether it's learning any new skill, language, anything, at the beginning, when you start, yeah, sure, first 5-10 minutes are fun. Then frustration sets in, and failure's not fun. And failure in business is even less fun because it doesn't happen as quickly. Like, let's say you're trying to learn to surf, okay, you fall off 5 times in a row, that can be your first half an hour. Failure in business doesn't happen that quickly. So by the time you've realized you've failed in business in some form, you've already spent and expelled a lot of your energy and time, and you don't want to fail. You really don't. Nobody does. So let's get past it straight away. Nobody likes failure. Anyone that tells you they do, it's not true. What they mean, and I think what they communicate badly, is they've learned to use failure. And that's a skill that I think we all need to learn. And it's a skill that, unfortunately for me, took me a very long time. So for me, I've had a lot of failures, and I still view them as failures. Some of them I learned from, some of them I didn't, and I failed the same thing again, and that is probably the worst thing anyone can do. But at the same time, sometimes you have to do that before you realize what failure is. Today I'm not going to teach you about how to realize when you failed and when you haven't. I'm going to teach you about how to try and use that. And I think that comes with maturity, that comes with understanding and time, because you will recover from any failure regardless of what it is. It could be failing to keep up your diet. It could be failing to get up in the morning. It could be failing your New Year's resolution. Or it could be failing in the decision you made to sell to that market or to price it that way. And I think let's stop using the word failure and let's just use it in the way that it should be. These are just iterations of what you're trying to achieve. So we talk a lot about balance. We talk a lot about rituals, and we talk a lot about habits. These are the things that will help you overcome failure using small incremental changes as opposed to grand gestures or massive changes in your life. That's when you're more likely to fail. When you're trying to change something in a huge way and ultimately it's too hard, it's too big a change to keep up. Humans are creatures of habits, and if you're going to change your habits, that's fine, but it's not easy to do and it takes time. So if you're going to try and change your habit, make it small, make it uncomfortable but not too uncomfortable, that you can do it and you can keep it up. So let's go back to how do we take failure and how do we use it as a stepping stone. Now, balance to growth is about lots of different parts of your life, but career and entrepreneurship is a big part of that. And I feel, as someone that's had 3 or 4 businesses, some have failed, some have not, and a lot of failures along the way to the successes that did occur, I think it's a place where I can talk from with some wisdom. So in my life, I have always had an unwavering belief that I am right. You can call it arrogance, you can call it whatever it is. Not about everything, but about the companies that I've started. There are many things I don't believe I'm right in at all, by the way, so let's make that clear. But when it comes to making business decisions, I do like to ask people's opinions, but I like to make the decision, and once I make a decision, I'm all in. I believe it. And I think to some degree you have to, otherwise if you haven't got that conviction, it's very hard to take risks. Now, a lot of those decisions that I have made have been total failures, and they have affected me, and they've affected people that work for me, they've affected family, they've affected us financially, they've affected other clients, all sorts of people, and I've caused all sorts of pain through decisions that I've made. On the other side of that, I have probably had more wins than I have had failures, and I have brought people money, joy, success. Now, I could only have achieved those things by having the failures along the way. And really, let's call failure what it is when it's in business. It's learning. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, when you're learning how to read, or as we go back to the previous analogy, learning how to surf, you're not hurting anybody by making mistakes. In business, however, you are running a business, you are employing people, you are dealing with clients, you are selling a product, whatever it is, you are impacting other people. And I think that's the biggest change. People don't have a problem falling off a surfboard over and over again, but they do have a problem making decisions that cause other people pain. The reality is, if you're ever going to get to a point where you can bring people joy and the things that you want to, you're going to have to learn how to get there, because no one's born with that skill. No one is born being great at relationships. No one is born being great at sales. No one is born being great at maths. All of these things are learned, and business is the same. That's why we go to school when we're children, to make mistakes and learn in an environment that's safe. However, when we get into businesses, that's our own environment, it's not safe. So what we have to do is we have to try and identify those learnings as quickly as we can, or failures if you want to call them that. Work out what they are and work out why they're wrong and work out how to amend them. And what you'll find is that even if you cause people pain, customers, staff, whoever it is, if you come back with a solution and you have the willingness to admit that this was the wrong decision, you can then move on, make another decision and another iteration. And then all of a sudden it doesn't seem like failure anymore. And this is why I come back to that. I hate people that say they love to fail, because I don't think it is fail. Failure, I think, is really defined by one simple thing: when you stop or give up. If you don't give up, you can't fail. You're just on that journey of learning. Now, for me, what I've learned over the years and how to deal with this is you need time to reflect. When you fail or when you have a learning, it hurts. It hurts your ego, it hurts your brain. You need to process that. You can't ignore it. Some people seem to want to ignore it and just move on. That's seen as dismissive. Don't agree with that. What you have to do is take time, not a lot of time, can be an hour, can be a night, can even be a week. Take that time to think about why you made those decisions, understand why you made those decisions, and understand why it didn't work, and then go again. Now, that might sound simple. It's not. I've found the way that I do that, and it's different for everybody, is to write these things down. So I will, if I've had a failure that I think is particularly of note, I will write down, okay, this is what went wrong. Then I'll write down what made me make that decision so I can understand it, and then I write down what I learned from that. By doing those 3 steps and writing it on paper, and we all know when you write on paper it does have more of an impact, you'll find that you get some comfort and clarity that you made a decision based on the information and knowledge that you had. It wasn't a stupid decision. It wasn't a failure. It was you basically acting on what you'd learned at that stage. You then you get some comfort and say, okay, well, that's why I made that decision. Now I know this, I will make a different decision. What that does is it removes your guilt. It removes your feeling of being an idiot, which we all do feel. And it enables you to build a process of constantly improving yourself. And you can do this in all aspects. It doesn't matter whether it's hiring someone, deciding on a pricing of a new product, whatever it might be. And maybe your learning is that you made a decision before you had done enough research. Maybe you made a decision based on a different market. It doesn't matter, but it gives you that time to understand it. And that will give you confidence that you're constantly improving. And I think human beings by nature want to constantly improve. We want to feel like we're moving forwards in some way. It's not even and I'm sure everyone's heard this 1,000 times, it's not the actual end goal that really gives us the reward. It's actually and I hate using the word, but it is the journey. It is the doing of what you're doing that actually gives us purpose and meaning. And if you take time to analyze and look at why you made a decision and where it went wrong and where you're going to go now, you will have that feeling of accomplishment and achievement every single time. And that will motivate you to make more decisions, take more risks, and hopefully have more success. So my view to you, or my point to you, is you can write it down like I did. You can go away to a retreat and think about it. You can have a partner that you talk it through. There's a zillion different ways you can do it. But find the way that works for you and your personality. And every time you're feeling like you have failed, sit down, work out why you made the decision, work out what happened, why it happened, what you've learned, and what you're going to do now. And you will have that sort of cloud of failure removed that often paralyzes people from taking a risk and doing something else. And if it does get into that stage where you get paralyzed, guess what? You give up. And that is when you failed.